And I want to talk about, what you guys feel that during COVID times, what is the impact, in available funding for bio? I think that's a driver that is happening right now. So be thinking about that. That's something.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of a reduction in funding, honestly, but I have seen some innovation that's incredible in terms of new businesses. One of my friends who I invest with out of Seattle ended up starting a company with a group of people that is all about PPEs, and they're importing them, and they're doing over 40 million a month. Yeah.
Wow.
Brand new business in this COVID time. Yeah, it's really pretty exciting.
From our standpoint, I made a company today, and you see how it was like a game changer for many businesses in this space. It was like a great thing, because finally the issues that bio is trying to attack bubble up and they're happening. So yeah, I do think that we should talk about the elephant in the room for sure, and also I like to say like that probably is more like a macro question, then bring it down more to you guys. Hey, all of that we say the smart people learn from their own mistakes. Geniuses learn from others. That's what I say. I'm pretty dumb. I don't learn from my own mistakes.
I doubt that.
But I would like to ask you guys, maybe to share a personal experience where maybe you made a mistake and share with the audience, how that worked. That will be another, kind of cool question that I wanted to put in there. And the rest, we will just run through the questions, that I gave you. But I wanted to bring it bring it more towards personal to you guys, and then just run the specifics on the panel, if that is okay with you.
Part of the thing about COVID, I'll just tell you up front before we start, I'm probably not the one to be asking too much about COVID, because it just pisses me off that they're politicizing it. And because our feds have given an incentive to healthcare institutions to monetize COVID cases, you're seeing that the reporting on influenza deaths are almost at zero. There's all these other deaths that are being attributed to COVID because they're getting paid for it. So this not only has been politicized, but it's been monetized. It's like a COVID business. And that just really upsets me. So I'm probably not, I can talk about innovation in the times of COVID, but don't ask me anything about what I think about monetizing COVID, because I think it's atrocious that they're being incentivized to actually account people with COVID as COVID deaths, when in fact they could have died from the flu, they could have died from congenital heart failure.
I'll tell you the stories. My cousin is a doctor, and I'll tell you later about it. It's crazy. But I want to ask the San Antonio Startup Week. I see 8 people already joining the panel. Are we ready to go live, or?
Let me.
What time was the session, David? Was it at 3? We may be live. I don't know.
I'm already recording the transmission though.
Yeah, but my question is, can the attendees see our discussion right now? Because we.
Yes.
Oh, great. So I'm sorry, guys. We were having this information.
Sorry, we're having a wonderful discussion about Rockport and COVID.
Yes. So welcome, guys. You're in the nice fishing talk, says Corey Levinson. Corey, it's great to see you there. Jesus Christ. We didn't know, last time they put us in a break room and we went live right before they let us know when the countdown to go live. Well, guys, thanks so much for attending the Got Off the Ground Funding Your Biomed Startup. I'll tell you that all of us probably in the room know that the cost associated on starting a biomed company is pretty high, and that can take several years to actually get it to revenue. So we thought that the purpose of today's discussion will be mainly 2 things, different sources of funding available to biomed companies and how to secure funding for your business. We have great panelists today. I'm pretty sure that David Spencer and Dr. Mehta will be joining shortly. I know we have very unique links to send to them so they can join, but we have May McCarthy. She's MMHoldings and Bizzultz and Kauka Property CEO, also board member of Alamo Angels. And of course, we have our recent addition to our beautiful community, Sebastian Garzon, which is the executive director for Alamo Angels. So I know we were having the discussion prior to starting the panel, but of course it's COVID times, and I wanted to see what was your perspective, guys, on what is the role of these biomed companies and the funding available for bio. Do you see a tipped up, or do you see a decrease in funding? How do you guys how do you guys see these happening during COVID times?
So I'll start. COVID right now, my name's McCarthy, for those of you that don't know me. My background is I've started, grown, and sold 7 different companies. The last 2 were in healthcare, life sciences, both capital equipment and software for giant hospital systems to automate their drug distribution processes. We got taken out in 2012, had a great exit with CareFusion, which later in a couple of years, especially with our technology, ended up having a wonderful sale to BD for $12.2 billion. So I have a lot of experience in starting and growing companies, got into angel investing well over 20 years ago. And what I have for, I guess, the past maybe 12 years, I've been part of organized angel groups, primarily in Seattle. I moved from Seattle 3 years ago to the San Antonio area, and have been part of the Alamo Angels membership as well as their syndicate, and have recently joined their board. So that's a little bit about me. I am also a mentor for Trinity University for some of the young startups, also a mentor at University of Texas Health for some of their startups. And I am also a consultant and an angel investor that serves on boards for some of the companies that I invest in. So what I've noticed is that entrepreneurs are so exciting. I mean, when they see a problem, they just figure out a solution. In fact, it's because of problems that show up that they end up deciding to create a new solution and monetize it. And COVID is no different. What I've seen is that a lot of new companies have shown up on the landscape, especially in Seattle, that have solutions, innovations for solving this COVID crisis, all right? And what I mean by that is we need to have masks, we need to have PPEs, we need to have therapeutics, we need to have some sort of safe way of doing business remotely, or safe way of doing business in person. So all of these problems that end up presenting themselves to our communities, these innovators, these entrepreneurs roll up their sleeves and come up with some solutions. And one in particular that I was speaking to before I knew that we were live is a friend of mine, a company in Seattle. They decided to really go for it, and they started a PPE supply company. They source from different places around the world, and they're distributing, and they're doing about 40 million in revenues every month and growing. So there are lots of innovations in healthcare. COVID is healthcare, right? So we have to come up with solutions to allow us to operate within this environment and help care for and save lives.
Super, May. And Sebastian, maybe, given that right now you're leading the ship with Alamo Angels, can you tell us a little bit about what you have seen in number of applicants, and how do you see this COVID thing happening?
Yes, David, thanks for inviting me, by the way. I think it's very interesting what they are doing in San Antonio Startup Week. I was actually part of the sessions through an investment track, and we've already finalized all of our sessions there. But I've been following a lot of what's been going on throughout the month. I know it's called the Startup Week, but this time around we're doing it for the whole month. And I'm glad that people are joining and learning from different individuals in our community. So my name is Sebastian Garzon, and I am the Executive Director for Alamo Angels. And I guess what I can tell you, David, coming back to your initial question, is at first, I personally was a little nervous or hesitant regarding the angel involvement with startup companies. And what I've seen is people are actually active. And when you are a true investor, you are not looking at the macro level per se, but just kind of making sure that whenever there is an opportunity, you take advantage of that opportunity. And that's sort of what we've seen with Alamo Angels and the members that we currently have. Now, to make a really quick comment, we are industry agnostic. So I know that we are talking specifically today about biotechnologies, but Alamo Angels is industry agnostic. So we're looking at deals from all over the place. As long as it's got the potential to provide a return on the investment, it should be a good fit for us.
Thank you, Sebastian. And of course, we have now Dr. Mehta joining us. Dr. Mehta, past chair of Alamo Angels, was working behind the scenes to integrate that into our family of businesses. And of course, Dr. Mehta, I've been following you pretty closely since we met. You are an entrepreneur yourself. You are yourself saving lives and have a part of a VC firm that your builders VC partners. So welcome, Dr. Mehta.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, David, Bijo and I were on another Zoom sitting, waiting for you guys saying, where are these guys? Why are they late? So
I figure something must happening, you know, you're pretty always on time. So
there's two invites out there. So,
yeah.
Well, David made it. I guess Bijo's coming.
Okay, cool. Dr. Mehta, the question was, you know, so we're during COVID times. From your perspective, what do you see happening right now in terms of funding for bio? Do you see that it's coming up, it's coming down? How do you feel about funding during COVID times for biomed companies?
You know, our experience has been that it's definitely down. A lot of biomed and biotech type investments for us have been hands-on, touching the device, looking at it in that stage of a company. And that we're not able to do over Zoom. And so much of it, if you're not a subject matter expert in a specific therapeutic area, it's difficult to make an investment in something without having a hands-on approach, at least for what we've been doing and what I invest in and what we look at. We, for example, do a lot of spine device stuff, and we understand that. So we've continued to make spine device investments as we understand the space. We understand when we see a product, you know, most of the products that are minimally invasive are nitinol based. We've worked with nitinol, we've seen nitinol, we know everything we need to know about biomechanics for nitinol, so it's okay investing in those things. We looked at another opportunity in a cardiac mechanical valve device, and without seeing it and touching it, it was really tough to make an investment.
Super. And, you know, maybe we can go back to you, May. And I know maybe some of the audience that was early today heard my question, but I'm a big believer that, you know, smart people learn from their own mistakes. You know, geniuses learn from others. Some of us don't learn even from our own mistakes, I'll tell you that. But maybe, May, you can share with us, maybe when you became a early stage, you know, bio investor, you know, what kind of mistake will you feel comfortable sharing, you know, with the audience that might have some lessons learned behind that? You know, I truly believe when we talk about our mistakes, a lot of lessons learned bubble up.
Well, first of all, I don't think that there are any mistakes. I think there are just learning experiences, all right? And if we can learn from them, that's great. I know from my portfolio personally, the learning experience about investing in drug discovery versus investing in medical devices or healthcare IT, I prefer the latter just because of the length of time. To me, drug discovery has been sort of like owning a boat. You know, you're always throwing money in it. It's like a big hole in the ocean, and it just takes so long to get to the exit. And by then, you put so much money and so much time, and many of them fail. So for me, my learning experience is that I like and have more success with healthcare IT and med devices than I do with drug discovery.
Okay, super. Mehta, any comments?
That is all true. I will say the difference is, so we've invested in a company called Notable, and it's a drug discovery company, but uses AI for an uplift. And I mean, I hate that term because everyone throws around AI for everything, but they're truly using combinatorics for synthetic biology and using that for drug discovery in a way that I think some of these traditional timelines for drug discovery are going to get blown out of the water soon. And they're doing it. I mean, they have a drug, they do AML sort of myelodysplastic syndrome stuff, and they have a drug that's probably coming to market 3 years sooner than what conventionally would be the route. I mean, still got to go through clinical trials and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, they're in phase 3 trials, but the time it took from inception to first in man was shaved off by 3.5 years. So I think it will get quicker.
Super.
Well, and regarding that time frame of drug discovery, I like the peripheral products around it. There's a company out of Seattle that I invest in, been in several rounds, called Cyrus Biotech, and what they do is they lay over a software over the Rosetta drug discovery that most of the big pharma companies license, but you've got to be a PhD trained in David Baker's lab in order to understand how to operate this protein modeling software. And so Cyrus lays over a piece of software that's kind of like taking DOS and making it Windows, you know, making it very friendly to use the internet. So the process of drug discovery for big pharma has now been reduced because of the ease of navigating this Rosetta software that was so difficult to do protein modeling and drug modeling on before. So I like the peripheral products around drug discovery. I just don't want to invest in the drug discovery.
I see that, you know, we finally got the hiccups worked out when it comes to joining our panelists. So great to see you, David. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Bijo. You finally made it. I'm so glad to see you guys. So I'm gonna ask the audience to, you know, Google these guys or read their bios. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I think the value is providing more expertise and context around the investment side of the house when it comes to, you know, bio. But David, let me go with you. You know, any tips and tricks when evaluating a potential investment? I see you as a member of Alamo Angels. We appreciate your support. You're very well known, you know, around bio here. Hadn't had a chance to actually meet you face to face, but hopefully after the pandemic we can go to lunch or something. I'm buying. But what tips and tricks? How about that?
Well, if you're not masky, I'll even confess I'd go to lunch with you before the end of the pandemic, and don't get me started on that. I think patience is the key. One of the things that I personally, as an angel investor, learned early on, and I don't know if the target for our discussion is, since I was late getting here, I didn't look up who the attendees are, but I'll peek later. I don't know if they're investors or if they're entrepreneurs, but for the both, I think one of the things is you have to be prepared for, and I'd love to get some of the other panelists' thoughts on this, but prepared for the, I'll say it this way to be nice, the potential of predatory upstream investors. The potential for early seed investors to have predatory later investors come in. And I used to get really angry. I've been the early investor, and then for a couple of 3 years, I got to be potentially the later investor. And I used to get really angry at upstream investors that were predatory to earlier investors. I've kind of changed my thinking a little bit because, look, any investor is trying to balance risk. And the thing about bio investing in devices, I'm like you, I don't particularly care to invest in pharma. I don't really invest in any bio stuff either. And so devices, biologics, and pharma, to me, you know, devices are still a pretty long, if you're a techie investor, that's a long time. And then if you've got biologics, it's this long, and if it's pharma, my arm goes off the camera for pharma.
You missed the discussion previously, but yeah, we touched base on that, David.
The key is when you're investing or when you are asking investors to come to your company, whichever it is, think through preemptively what the next round and the next round looks like, both if it goes well, which is what all of us entrepreneurs think, and if it goes not so well, which, as May said, that's not a mistake. That's just learning. And if there's one thing I've learned as an investor, it always takes longer. And are you prepared as an investor when the future round comes in and says, great, as a way to reduce risk, we're going to go ahead and put a preference stack on, or we're going to do some other things that really take risk by increasing the pie at the expense of the early investors. That's a big red learning lesson from David Spencer's 20-year journey in investing.
Awesome, David. So any comments about the potential predatory investors from you guys? Have you experienced that? What are your thoughts on that? It looks like David used to get very mad, not anymore.
Well, if I do, I can't admit it. In their defense, though, think about it. If everything went well, ta-da, it didn't go well. So now you're a late stage investor coming into a company and something went wrong. I'm not saying it's a major down round, but it wasn't potentially part of the plan. That means there's risk. And what do you do as an investor? You balance risk to reward, and you want to take, just like entrepreneurs, you want to take as much risk off the table. And frankly, you know, carrying a bunch of whiny early angel investors along when they can't write a check anymore, man, I just have zero appeal to me as a later stage investor. Don't be the whiny angel investor who can't write another check. Sorry.
Okay, that's great. So Bijo.
Sounds like David's gone through the stages of grief, like denial and acceptance.
Yeah.
He's like on stage 5 here.
That's right. Now I'm at the cranky stage. That's the one they never put in the books.
I'm
So,
holding
well
up
said,
my
David.
sign, preferred shares, preferred shares.
that's funny. So Bijo, great to see you.
Great to see you, David.
So clearly, you know, if you guys Google Bijo, he's involved in many things that I cannot even have time to mention in this chat or in this panel or in the chat. But advice, what would you give an advice to a bio funder that looking to raise some money, Bijo? Either, you know, publicly or privately.
So, you know, I think and I'm going to build on what was just said by David, so I kind of missed the beginning of this. I tell folks looking, you know, you've got to look at it from 3 fundamental windows that I kind of see. You've got to understand that when you're pursuing funds for your company, there is what I call the scientific and the technical aspect of your innovation. There is the financial aspect of your innovation. And then there's the business development side of your innovation. And these are 3 separate pillars of what you need to construct for your company. And rarely is a company good enough in just one, let alone 3. So you've got to look at it from that perspective and try to de-risk each of those aspects, those 3 lanes individually as much as you can. So the more that a company has begun to understand that and is talking to us about how they're addressing those 3 lanes, the more trust as an investor I have in them. So to me, it's really about building trust supported by your actions, your patterns of previous performance, and the data that you're bringing to the table. So it is no different whether the funds that you're going after is from an angel investor group, VC investor group, or from federal funds. So, you know, as you know, we support a lot of companies through acquisition of federal funds, and the biggest in that part is the SBR and STTR funds. But at the end of the day, what I just spoke about is equally important on that side of the house as it is in any other private investor. In fact, I would say it's a little bit more because one of the things that a federal agency or federal partner brings to the table is they're also looking for alignment of the innovation with respect to their personal lane of mission and objectives. So a lot of times I find that when investors want to de-risk, their innovation. Some of the best de-risking funds are through the SBIR's TTR program, but they go at it very sloppy. They don't understand that these are investment funds by a specific federal agency that is geared towards addressing their specific objectives and goals and motives. And I don't think a lot of companies pay attention to that as much as they should. They see themselves and they see the plan of when they're going to market, but they forget that there's someone in between who's making that conduit happen. So I'll stop there.
I love the concept of alignment, Bijo, especially, you know, when you have funding agencies at the public sector trying to align their mission with the investments that they're making. But, you know, that brings up, you know, another concept that I wanted to bring to you guys, and is, you know, May, at the beginning of the panel, you talk about your successful exits. I bet that all of us are looking for those exits, right? That's when we actually get a chance to get back our, you know, investment, and hopefully with a return. Sometimes, you know, so some of us have been involved in investment that we just get our money back or a little bit less, and it's like, why did I invest, you know? So how important is for a bio company to have a good, solid exit strategy, guys? Can that even be done at an early stage? What is your opinion on that? And I'll open the question for anybody that wants to jump in and talk about this.
David, if you allow me, I think coming back to what Bijo was talking about, he said that there's 3 aspects of the business that any company needs to pay attention to. And one of them, the first one he mentioned, was the technical aspect. And so going back to your previous question, when you talked about a piece of advice for companies on the biotech side, when we get companies that pitch to Alamo Angels, we usually get them to go through a pitch coaching session. And it's very common for us to, as part of the feedback, to tell them, guys, you got to think about this as if you were talking to your grandma type of thing, right? So anyone needs to be able to understand it. And we see that a lot on, you know, those coders or people that are working on technology, or, you know, doctors, scientists, because they are very much experts on their fields, but they need to translate that in such a way that anyone can understand what they are doing. So as far as a piece of advice, I think I wanted to come back and make that comment there. And then regarding your question now, exit strategies, we're dealing with investors. And at the end of the day, this is not the case for everyone, but for the most part, an investor wants to see a return on their investment. When I say it's not the case for everyone, I'm talking about people who actually want to give back to the community by providing mentorship and guidance, right? But primarily speaking, they are here because they want to make money. And so in order for you to make money, there's got to be something happening with the companies so that you can actually make that money back, right? So will they actually go all the way down to making it as an IPO and go and ring the bell in New York and be public, or get acquired by a bigger company, at which point the investors would get their money back, or buy back their positions, right? But there's got to be somewhere within the process that a big event happens in order for those investors to get their money back. So if they come and pitch to an angel group or pitch to an investor, they need to know that there is a plan in place for that to happen, so that I know that when I'm writing you a check, eventually sometime down the road, I'm going to see it back.
Super.
So I want to throw something in just to use Bijo's model. Look, I really, as an investor and as an entrepreneur, I'm trying to, if you think about exits, you got to look at 3 things. What are buyers going to be looking for? What are the companies that are going to buy your company looking for? I argue there's 3 things. They're looking for revenue momentum, the promise of a large market, and then everybody gets those 2. Great, my hockey stick and a large market, who's going to buy me? But the real nerdvana comes if you also have a strategic fit, a killer app. Let me try and give a quick example. So there's a company that has a wound healing technology for diabetic or burns or other persistent and difficult open wounds. And there's a bunch of companies doing this, but this one particular company The technology doesn't matter. It is a wound management system where you're going to put a salve onto a wound. Who bought them? The company that ended up buying that company was the company that has a wound debridement technology. That I called it kind of like your toothbrush that has the spinning, vibrating water pick. If you debride a wound to get the biofilm off, I'm not a doctor, but it's a scraping process. And then that doesn't do a good job. It leaves little pockets because your skin is not a flat surface. And if you want to get rid of all the biofilm, then you got to take off a bunch of healthy stuff too, peaks and valleys. So they've got a water pick that will wash those little peaks and valleys out. And they're making a cadoodle of money. And then they went and bought a startup company that has a interesting wound closure technology, not closure, but treatment technology. Why? Because they said, wait a minute, there's a strategic fit. We don't know boo about silver ion, oxygen, blah, blah. But we know this. If we're debriding a wound, we could have the very same salesperson pull out of their bag this goo to go right on top of it. That's my grandma version, by the way, Sebastian, right?
Let's rate him, Sebastian. How will you rate that?
They paid a blue sky premium for that startup. Why? Because there was a strategic fit, a killer app. It extended them and said, we're going to sell more water picks because we've got this goo. So we'll pay you a little bit more. That's nerdvana on an exit. And what a lot of entrepreneurs look at is, here's my hockey stick, here's the market, hooray. But if you really want to look impressive, like you know what you're doing, go out and say, here's the 4 buyers and why we fit into their, they don't care about a startup, who cares? But if you tell me why this extends their portfolio, then I'm really excited. I came out of the military world, and the military, they call it a force multiplier. A force multiplier.
Love it, dude. I love
Dave,
it.
when you say they make a cadoodle of money, is that a technical term?
Well, I used to say gazillion, but now there's a show on TV, Gazillionaire. So
I'm looking for companies doing a cadoodle. Okay.
It's technical enough, Amit.
May, how about you? Tell me a little bit about your exits. Was that the case? You know, the revenue momentum, large market, and then the strategic fit. How do you feel about that? You know, grandma explanation of David.
Actually, when David was talking, I was thinking about, you know, sometimes it takes a few tries to perfect something. And in my last company, the one that I started and grew, we didn't take any outside money. So we self-funded. But we identified very early on that CareFusion was the water pick company, and we were the wound care company. What we did was we actually put our technology into the central pharmacy to manage all drug distribution throughout giant healthcare systems. We knew that healthcare systems were going to consolidate even more. They were going to acquire more and more independent hospitals and become larger and larger systems. And what we wanted to do was help them with their drug distribution, with their inventory, with their barcode medication administration. And it seemed to us that the only player out there in the midst of Cardinal Health, McKesson, AmerisourceBergen, and Omnicell was CareFusion, which was the spinoff from Cardinal Health and owned all the Pyxis units and the automated dispensing cabinets and Alaris smart pumps and things like that. So we knew that they needed a solution like ours. And so very early on when we started, we knew that they would be a potential acquirer, and we started to develop a really good relationship with them. In fact, I went after their salespeople and told them why it was a better solution, showed them why it was a better solution to sell for us instead of embarrassing themselves to sell for a different company that they were asked to sell for. And it was really embarrassing because their technology did not work. So these salespeople needed to have a solution so that Omnicell, McKesson, AmerisourceBergen wouldn't come in and steal the sale. So we established a really great relationship. And then at year 3, our revenues were significant. We were becoming market share leader in new sales acquisitions, and CareFusion's head popped up, and they gave us a call, and we created a resale agreement that allowed them to resell our products along with theirs, and did that dance for a while, and they blew away every quota that they had, and eventually offered us a too good to be true amount for acquiring our company, and then we just added to that. And
that noise May heard, by the way, it's this noise. Have you guys ever heard this with one of your companies? That's the dump truck full of money that backed up to May's house.
All cash.
And then
It dumped a cadoodle of money in your backyard?
It was a
That's
cadoodle.
awesome.
That's where it came from. It was a cadoodle.
And
But
then,
no, I have to agree with you, David, and also Amit, Dr. Mehta. Startups, when I advise startups, and I advise a lot and invest in a lot, and I always ask them to make sure that they see what kinds of companies might be able to buy them. Have that clearly in mind, and don't even think about coming to present to me if you're developing a lifestyle business. I mean, I hope you do well, but I don't want anything to do with just helping you run a business that is a lifestyle business. I want a return on investment. So you have to have an exit strategy, and it's got to be something that gets us excited. I mean, if you can't show investors that there is at least a 10x return, at least show that that's part of your plan and that it's possible. I know things happen, when you're growing your business. You always have to be prepared for a pivot. You got to be prepared to move in a different direction. If you think you're going to need this much money to get to profitability, guess what? You're wrong. Add more money. Plan for at least another 75% more than you think you'll need, and raise that. Get those SBIR grants, get those other grants that are available, because that gives you really good practice in getting money, and it de-risks the rest of us as investors and makes us believe that you actually are pretty serious. If you can get those pilot projects, you may have to do what I did and what a lot of my startup companies do. Sometimes we have to have enough cash in the bank so that we can afford to give away technology. We had to give away technology to the Cleveland Clinic so that they would be our reference. And then they went out and helped sell for us because we overperformed on our promises. So make sure you have enough money. That's my biggest piece of advice. If you think you're going to need a certain amount, add to that. Get more, because there'll be unforeseen things that show up that you're not expecting, and there'll be delays, especially if you're developing a med device or some other biotech thing. There's going to be delays. Just count on it. And if you don't have some seasoned people on your team that have either returned money to investors or really know your space better than you do, go find them. Get them on your team, because those seasoned people, their advice goes a long way. They've lived through some battles, and they can hopefully, with their advice, save you from making similar mistakes.
Love it, May. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I'm gonna ask the audience to start writing their questions. We're approaching the close of the panel, and I wanted to to acknowledge Gabby, which is the president and CEO of Bluegrass Vascular Technologies. Thank you for being here with us, Gabby, and for supporting the efforts that we do at Velocity. And she has a very good question around our beautiful communities, and I think maybe you, Dr. Mehta, and Sebastian, Bijo, and you got anybody here in the panel, but you as part of a VC, Dr. Mehta can relate to this question. What in our community can we do to attract more later stage funding sources, VCs, family offices, and so on? What is your thought on that, Dr. Mehta?
You know, I mean, this is why we started Alamo Angels, right? I mean, we've been harping on this for almost a decade. We need to have some quality exits out of San Antonio in order to put us on the map so that others know that this is a breeding ground of great companies. And it comes from the infrastructure, the ecosystem from the beginning to the end. And I think Alamo Angels is doing a great job for that segment of it, but we really need the companies locally to work on, you know, getting good exits down on the ground. And it's not, there's been great exits out of San Antonio. It's just been a while. And so that kind of momentum has to keep on coming in order to keep attracting these folks. There is a mass exodus of folks right now out of California. I mean, I talked to 3 companies this morning that are relocating. I know this is heresy, but relocating to Austin. And they're doing that for, you know, all of the reasons. And there's, I mean, I talked to a guy this morning. It's like all their company does is move folks. They'll sell your house. They'll help you with all the stuff, but they're doing that for entrepreneurs. And, you know, locally we have Ed doing their thing. And so they're helping companies move, but we need to have quality exits out of San Antonio to attract that middle segment.
So in your, okay,
David, just real quickly, I don't know if you're looking at the Q&A part too. It seems to be separate from the chat, but if you could peek at one of those in particular.
Sure.
By the way, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with Dr. Mehta on, look, flat out, it's exits. We need exits. And until we get some exits, we're going to keep, there's a lot of opportunity, but until you see some exits to make that a virtuous cycle, we're just going to continue to struggle.
Bijo, any thoughts?
Oh, he's on mute.
While Bijo comes off of mute, David, there's
Okay,
a question there, a reminder for the topic of this session. If you can see that Q&A that David was,
right.
so we hit these questions.
We've only got about 16 minutes. I do want to throw one out and go directly to that, which is okay. So look, we're in San Antonio. It's hard to do medical devices. It's hard to do bio startups. It's hard to do farm. It's hard to do startups. If it was easy, everyone would do startups. It's not. It's hard. So there's not a lot of funding here. There's not a lot of venture capital here. Okay, we can whine and moan, or we can say, what extraordinary advantages does San Antonio have? Extraordinary. And there's one, it's poorly known, and I want to talk about it on this panel because it's important. Look, everybody needs a Dr. Mehta and his company with a footprint. He's got a global portfolio, and he's right here. So you want to know that guy. Everybody wants to know a McCarthy with several exits, great books, and great advice. Everybody wants an Alamo Angels, and everybody wants a tech transfer program. What is extraordinary here is it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but I argue we have an underutilized resource in San Antonio, which is the military, which is a little weird because no one thinks military and medical device innovation. But right here in sleepy little San Antonio, Texas, 950 MDs, PhDs, and other researchers get up every day, kiss their significant other, go to Fort Sam, and dream up stuff for wounded warriors. And David Fonseca knows the VelocityTX folk are working with them. And they donk off about $45 million a year of federal money on stuff they're interested in. And guess what they're interested in? Things that help wounded warriors. And we as a community, and I will just tell you my example, my company, we just this morning, I'm sorry, it was at 1 o'clock, we just celebrated, we just won another $2.6 million award, non-dilutively, bringing the total for my little company north of $32 million. of funding. So SBIRs, STTRs, those are great to get started, but we've had $32 million. I didn't have to sell a share of stock for that. Super attractive, and
I
it
think
changes the economics. And
David,
we,
I want to add to that because the other places that you can get great funding, in addition to DoD, for sure. I mean, lots and lots and lots of grants coming out of there. But a lot of healthcare systems now have venture arms. So if you've got something that's really innovative, that's a best in class, you know, every healthcare system that I know of now has a venture arm. So be sure to contact healthcare systems. You've got Christus, you've got Methodist, you've got HCA, you've got Cleveland Clinic, Banner Health. I mean, you've got them all over the nation, and a huge one up in the Northwest, Providence Health System. That's in 5 states. So giant healthcare systems, if you've got something that's innovative, they also have venture arms. So don't look past them as well.
Yeah, David, I mean, the question that the anonymous is asking is the panel to discuss different sources of funding available to Biomed. So just to break it down, I think there's 3 sources of funding. There's non-dilutive, there's dilutive, and then there's conventional debt. So most companies will start with conventional debt. You hear everybody maxing out their credit cards in a garage. You do what you got to do, raise money from your friends, family. It doesn't necessarily have to be on a convertible or a safe note. It's just loans from friends, family, parents, brothers, sisters, etc. And then I would hit non-dilutive sources first, SBIR, STTR, DoD. There's a whole host of private grants from private foundations based on what you're doing. If you're doing, you know, cystic fibrosis, Vertex will give you almost an unlimited grant if it's the right thing. So go hit up personal foundations, disease-specific therapeutic foundations, public payers, private payers, and as May said, hospitals, hospital systems, whatever it may be. And then your last resort to me would be dilutive funding, angel, venture, all of that, because you're giving up equity in your company. But if you cash is king, if you have to do that because you've exhausted the first 2, then you have to do that. I have lots of entrepreneurs that come to me and I say, well, what sources of SBIRs? I mean, this is a perfect, you know, whatever, NIH R01 grant. Have you hooked up with someone at UT? And they're like, nah, we're just, you know, trying to raise angel. I'm like, you're giving up equity in your company. If you believe in your company and you put your own money in this company, you want to retain all the equity you can. Go get non-dilutive funding and come back. And, you know, the doers will do that. And those who don't will continue to just keep doing presentations in front of VC. For every biomed company we look at, as a venture company, we asked, what is your non-dilutive funding and how did you use that to get to certain milestones, whether it's, you know, getting a CPT3 code for reimbursement or whether it's getting to the next grant or whatever it is. You should exhaust non-dilutive sources of funding before you come for equity-based financing.
And Dr. Mehta, talk about that a little bit more around how it not only validates in the marketplace, but it is a risk reduction for you and your team. Do you, true or false, you perceive if someone's come in and they've gone to Bijo and they've gotten the SBIR, the STTR, and it has succeeded, true or false, do you see a reduction in at least that technical risk? It's lower now because they proved it versus they're going to prove it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? In that, like we talked about at the beginning of this, these late stage investors come in, they're de-risking their portfolio by being vultures, right? Because you failed. But if you use that non-dilutive funding to prove out your thesis, hypothesis, concept, then it's a lot easier for me to write a check because you're revenue positive. You've de-risked whatever the idea is. You've filed all the patents, as opposed to you have an idea on a napkin where it's a true angel judge, right? I mean, you should get as far as you can as an entrepreneur without anyone else's money, without dilutive money, so that when you go for dilutive money, you can maximize your valuation and give up as little of your company as you can. I mean, I have a spinal startup. We've not taken $1 of outside funding. It's all non-dilutive, and we're at first in man. I mean, you don't hear that in these kinds of companies, right? But we did that purposefully because we want to retire and we're not giving up equity in the company. So as an entrepreneur, go find alternate sources of funding without these classic venture, private equity, whatever all these terms are you hear. That should be 2.0 of your fundraising cycle.
I agree. And it is not by the way, sounds easy. It is not easy. But it's not supposed to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. It's hard. But he is dead on, and I'm so appreciative because it is particularly important when you need to have a longer investment mindset. Look, medical devices compared to software as a service, you know, in like a year, 2 years, you know whether the thing's going to work or it doesn't. You're going to be years before you're even allowed to go into the marketplace in a device. So any de-risking you can do, why wouldn't you do it? Because it's hard. I just want to go to the investors so they'll give me money so then I can focus on the easy stuff. That's not how the world works.
Exactly.
But you know, one of the things David said, right, about San Antonio being an extraordinary place, I mean, there are people here who will help you, as opposed to other places where I've been or worked in where, you know, someone's had an exit in a company, they're suddenly untouchable because they're, you know, they have either some status or they're wealthy or whatever it is. Here, even people who have had massive exits will help you. I mean, you can call them up and they will give you a half an hour with coffee and they'll take you through stuff that you need help with. And all the people on this panel will do that. So, I mean, I think if you're an entrepreneur in San Antonio in this segment, reach out to these folks and get help from people who are willing to help you here that you probably can't get in other cities as easily.
Yeah, Dr. Mehta, I've experienced that. I'm pretty new to space in terms of the accelerator, and I can tell you the community has gotten behind us. I think everybody in this panel is helping us to take it off the ground, and I think it's much needed as a magnet program to actually bring that quality deal flow that hopefully one day will have some exits and put us in the map and bring more VC. So, you know, we're approaching the closing. I want to keep it on time. I want to ask, you know, Sebastian, really quick, do's and don'ts on when it comes to pitching. You see a lot of deal flow. In fact, with this month, we got a record high applications for Alamo Angels. Congratulations, Sebastian, on that.
Thank you, David. I think we need to, when it comes to pitching, because it's such a short time frame that you have to be very concise, and you have to hit the points that any investor will be interested in looking into. So a few of them include obviously the problem, what is the problem, and then what is the solution, and what do you offer as far as the solution. Another one big that I see is the team. I think a lot of times we see some people breezing over the team section of it and not putting enough emphasis on that. And I've heard multiple times in this group, even we say we are invested in the jockey and not on the horse. And so it's important for people to know who is on the team and how they can take that product to the next level, or that company to where it's supposed to go. Obviously have a clear ask, and then the exit. The exit is very important. Again, we've already talked about that, so make sure you mention that. I will definitely get away from being too technical. We also talked about that. Acronyms, you know, we've seen a few entrepreneurs going a little too technical and sharing too many acronyms, and whenever people attend those pitches, you just don't know what they are talking about. So I will say those are the big no's.
Super. Mehta, one do and one don't quickly before we reach our timing.
Okay. Oh, there's so many, right?
I know it's hard, yeah. But big one.
Okay. The biggest thing I could say, and this echoes back on something May was saying about knowing your exit. You need to be the person in the room who knows most about what you're doing. If your investors, your advisors, whatever it may be, know more about your subject than you do, then you got a problem. So be really well entrenched and educated in what you're pitching, and make sure you can answer all the questions. And don't, you know, be a nice person. don't be arrogant and coming into a pitch. I know you know it all, but don't let them know that you know it all.
Love it, love it, love it. What about you, David? I want to hear from you.
Hey, you got to have some passion, but I like skin in the game. I like the scene from the movie An Officer and a Gentleman. I'm getting old now, but where they're going to kick mayonnaise. And they finally decide, I'm going to kick you out. I'm trying to get you to quit, but you're not going to quit. I'm going to kick you out. He says, don't do it. Don't do it. Why not? I got nowhere else to go. That's somebody worth betting on. Don't be the guy that's like, oh, I'm a doc and I'm doing this at night. And if it all goes in the crapper, you lose your money, but I'll just go back to my job. Come on.
I like it. Me, one-on-one.
I have so many, the whole topic of valuation for the right stage company. Don't come in and embarrass yourself with a ridiculous valuation on an early stage company. But that's not my don't. My do is make sure you are able to convey the problem and the solution that you have very quickly and very easily. I can't tell you how many presentations I have been through, and I'll get halfway through the presentation and I think to myself, what the hell do they do? I don't get it. So, and I mean, there's like 75% of presentations that I see often, especially in life sciences. I don't get it. So you've got to make sure that you convey exactly what problem you're solving or what convenience you're creating or what you're making better very, very early, and make sure that your audience understands it well. So don't confuse me.
Super. And I know, Bijo, you judge a lot of, non-diluted funding, and I know that your upcoming national SBIR meet here in Texas at no charge. Give me one-on-one, do and don't.
So I also serve as the Department of Defense Tech Scout for Texas. So one of the things that I tell people is all pitches are not the same. So don't ever walk into a pitch room without knowing what the folks at the table want to hear from you. You'd be surprised at how many times that happens. And so if you don't customize your pitch for your audience, that is you being lazy and not doing your homework. And so you'd really need to understand what it is that they're doing first. So one of my tech pitches that we do with the tech scouts at the DoD at the highest levels, it's a confidential pitch. Don't market it. What we're trying to learn in that pitch is learn about your technology. It's one of those rare cases and rare situations where we want to go into the weeds. We want to learn about what your technology does, what the competitors do, what the competitors don't do, and why your particular innovation is disruptive in the DoD space. And we want you to articulate that in 20 minutes, okay? So don't spend a lot of time in general language, because there are experts at the table. It's closed meeting. We really want to dig into the weeds because we are the gateway that lets you into the next part of the defense partners inside that are going to connect with you. We will get to the numbers afterwards. But right now we are trying to make a decision of who to connect to your technology. So the do there is do your homework, know who you're pitching to, and don't come in like a know-it-all, as somebody just said, and try to teach people at the table what you think we need to learn about your technology. I'll stop there. Thank you,
Bijo. 4 p.m. guys, we have arrived on time. I appreciate everybody's time. We apologize with the San Antonio Startup Week for what happened early, but we made it. Thanks so much for attending. We always appreciate your time. I know everybody here in the panel is very busy, and I hope to see you guys soon and have a good cup of Colombian coffee. We'll see you soon.
Certainly will. Thank you, David May. Nice to meet you. Amit, Sebastian, David.
Everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.